Hello, and welcome to Astrology Explained. My name is Anea. I'm an upcoming author and writer. I've published one book so far called The Genius from Mars, which is on Amazon. For my first video, I'd like to start off with a disclaimer. I do not believe in horoscopes. I do not think astrology can tell you where you should live, who your soulmate is, how your kids are going to look, or about your career. What I do believe, though, is that astrology contains stories and ancient wisdom that has been passed down through the generations that tells us a lot about not only our psychology, but about who we are. So for my first video, I'd like to talk about the basics, the first things I thought about when I first started encountering this information. So what you need to know about the zodiac is there's two halves. The top half, which starts with Virgo and ends with Aries, and the bottom half, which starts with Pisces and ends with Libra. Essentially, man and woman, right? Masculine, feminine. Now the question you might ask is, why does it start with Pisces, the feminine side? Well, if you look at Aries, it is a fire sign. It is a fire sign. Pisces is a water sign. What we know about Aries, or about Mars, is that it's very action-oriented. It gets angry, it gets livid, and it acts and it does, right? Pisces, which is a water, and what we know about water is it takes out fire, right? Pisces is a very imaginative, aloof, and forgiving, and going with the flow sign. So it's literally just a game of opposites, right? So you have the fire sign here, Aries. It descends into water, right? So it kind of changes into water, and that leads to the feminine side of the zodiac wheel, which ends with Libra, or this is a symbol for Venus and women. So again, why is Virgo the beginning of the masculine? Well, there's two things I want to point out. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and if you look at the symbol for Mercury, it is kind of the crown of Venus, right? It's at the top of Venus. Not only that, but Venus, if you study Libra and the sign Venus, right, it's very communicative, right? It shouts, it verbalizes, it lets the world know what's on its mind, right? Virgo is the exact opposite of that. It's very silent, constrictive, it keeps secrets. And so what we find is that masculine energy, right, the top half, it starts with silence. Right? Men are more prone to silence, and we'll talk about thought later, but men are more prone to silence, right? Now that asks the question, what does the feminine side start with? I'll tell you, it's understanding and truth. The feminine half of the zodiac is understanding and truth. Now, you might be asking the question, why is men at the top and women at the bottom? Why is feminine, the masculine side, right, at the top, and the feminine side at the bottom? Well, if you look at Aries, it rules the head, right? And it also, if you look at Virgo, it rules the stomach, right? So the upper half of the body, right, because the head is known as masculine, right? It is the most masculine of the body parts, right? It's the head. The head, it draws blood, and it draws glucose and oxygen that you have in your blood. It draws it upwards, right? With the help of the heart, right? The heart pumps the blood, right? Which is another masculine sign, right? The sun, which we're going to talk about later. But the head, it forces the blood flow upwards. So the masculine energy goes up. Another thing is men have very strong upper body strength, right? We look at men, they're built stronger on their upper half, right? They have muscle on their legs too, but they're kind of more built for action, more built for tedious work, for that kind of thing. So, and then women, so it makes sense that feminine energy goes down. Now, why is this? Well, because Venus, we all know the goddess Aphrodite, right? It rules attractiveness. It rules sexual energies, beauty, and women, essentially. During sexual reproduction, this is going to sound a little weird, the blood flow actually kind of rebels, and we'll talk about rebellion on another video. but it kind of rebels, and instead of going to the head, it goes down to the lower extremities, right, to allow sexual reproduction to happen, right? And so yeah, that is the basics that you need to know. Top half masculine, bottom half feminine. Another thing I want to describe is the sun. All astrology is focused around the sun. Now, why is that? Because the sun has courage. The sun has courage, and this allows it to go where fear is present, right? It allows it to breach the other constellations and the other signs. Another thing about the sun, it is ruled by the sign Leo, which is a fixed fire sign. Now, what do we know about fire? We know that fire illuminates. It burns down barriers, and it's in astrology, fire rules truth. And we'll discuss that more later. But essentially what the sun does is, because it has a very confident nature, it has this ability to illuminate and show what's going on, right, in the dark. Right? So if you have a darkness and you spark up a light, you can now see, right? And this will relate more to a Sagittarius, which we'll discuss later. But the sun, depending where it is, it illuminates the traits of that constellation, right? So if my sun, for example, is in Scorpio, meaning that because it's frozen, when I was born, the sun was frozen in that sign, right? It reveals the personality traits and the way that Scorpios think and react with the environment. So yeah, that's basically the basics, right? Top half, right, begins with silence, right? Men, the head. Bottom half begins with understanding truth, right? Imagination. And the sun is the center of our being, right? Is the center of who we are, right? You look at the heart, right? The heart is at the center, and it's the core of our being, and it provides blood everywhere, right? It keeps on pumping. It's the reason we are alive. So these are just the basic concepts I wanted to go over right now. And yeah, thank you for listening, and that will be all for now.